Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth podcast of CIPS MENA Procurement Master Talk series. I'm your host, Lalit Dhamija. With 40 years of experience in procurement and supply, I am ex-procedure and process assurance manager in procurement department of ADNOC Onshore. After my corporate career spanning 37 years, I am now global procurement and supply chain trainer and coach. I have been working as a CIPS volunteer in UAE since 2009. Today, I am honored to be joined by Ian Heptinstall. We will talk about project management, procurement training, and mentoring. We will summarize the key learnings at the end of the podcast. So, as already said, our guest of CIPS MENA Procurement Master Talk Show today is Ian Heptinstall. He joins us from UK and he's an author, teacher, and coach in projects and procurement. About Ian, some of us will remember Ian from the time he spent working in the Middle East. He moved here in January 2018 to establish CIPS in-region training capability after CIPS engaged ArcBlue as their partner. Between 2013 and his return to the UK in 2015, he delivered hundreds of training workshops across the region, trained thousands of procurement staff, and was coach to several CPOs in the region. Before working in the Middle East, he was CPO at a large UK construction company and has spent much of his career outside of procurement as a manager of CapEx projects in the chemical industry and as a supply chain management consultant. Today, Ian works for the University of Birmingham in the UK, where he leads a master program in industrial project management. Ian is degree qualified in engineering and business and is FCIPS, CDDP, and CDDL. He is author of the Executive Guide to Breakthrough Project Management, capital projects on time in less time, on budget at lower cost without compromise. Welcome to the CIPS Procurement Master Talks series, Mr. Ian. How are you doing?
Thank you, Lalit. It's great to be here. I'm well, thank you. The sun's shining in the UK, so can't be bad.
Wonderful. So, Ian, I just want to know, first question, how did you get into the procurement and supply chain world?
As you said in the introduction, Lalit, I trained and qualified as an engineer and worked in the chemical industry, which was maintaining, mending, upgrading production facilities. But as part of that, I wanted to broaden my career with some commercial experience outside of the technical aspects of engineering and managing engineering-based projects. And a career opportunity arose within the engineering procurement team. Now, at the time, I didn't know what procurement really was in detail, other than this function in a different building that managed the ERP system and paid invoices was how I saw it.
Right.
But I think that's given me a particular view and perspective on procurement because not all my career path has followed a procurement ladder. And that's given me the opinion that procurement, or the important aspects of procurement, is not a department or a function. It's a key business process. And to run that key business process, needs a cross-functional input. No one specialist should try and manage everything unless you're a superhero. And that's what even today excites me about the process of procurement, because they're not well understood across a wide range of people in business.
Okay. I think you said very like a key point, which is procurement is a key business process. It is not a department. I know when we are practicing category management, it really involves all the stakeholders in the company. I myself, firsthand, I've done it in ADNOC. Like procurement leads that, but it has inputs and equal inputs from various departments within the company, whether it is engineering, end users, finance, legal, or other departments as required. And it becomes a key business process, true to that term. Ian, if your colleagues were to describe you in 3 words, what would they be?
Good
This
question.
is an unexpected question for you, but still, we want to know that.
I would like to think open, and that may be an advantage, may be a disadvantage. So if I think something, I prefer to say it. Now, I realize in very sensitive environments and politically charged environments that doesn't always go down well. So I'm aware of that. But in a true working environment, I like people to say what they think, because I'm not a very good mind reader. And so along with open, I like to think that I listen. I will certainly talk a lot, but I like to think that I listen. So as part of open, I like sharing ideas. I love ideas. Things that can make things better. I see a big excitement in life, and certainly business, in getting better at doing something. That drives me. Again, I realize that comes with a downside, because what to me is just getting better, to somebody else is potentially seen as a criticism of what they've been doing, which is not the intention. But so those are 3 that came to mind, Lalit.
Right, you elaborated them also. I can understand in some way, because sometimes because of the circumstances, you are not that open, and you try to play, you are a bit diplomatic in certain times, depending on the organization, depending on the region, depending on the situation. So I can understand that.
although now that I'm an old man, life's too short to pretend, and because I see it as telling a lie. If somebody asks me my opinion, I assume they want my opinion.
Right.
There's no point using me to tell you your own opinion, because you know that. So if I work in coaching and mentoring, people bring me in for a particular point of view. And particularly if it's senior level coaching, senior people do not have a lot of time. They've got lots of demands on their time, and coaches are expensive. So I would prefer to cut to the chase, and then to have a discussion about it, maybe an argument or a debate. It's part of the way I like working.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of clear message they want to receive should be conveyed clearly. What they want to, not what they want to hear, but what exactly they should be hearing from the professional. And
exactly.
Ian, do you want to share some of your hobbies with us?
Okay. I suppose 2 things. I love being in the outdoors, and particularly in mountain regions. So in the summer, that my wife and I go walking, climbing or scrambling. and in the winter I go to snow-covered mountains and love skiing.
Okay.
My sport is rugby, and one of the things I was proud about in life was that I managed to keep playing until I turned 50. Just before I came out to Dubai, which is a great place, surprisingly, to watch rugby with the annual Dubai Sevens tournament.
Right. And any popular destination for snow peaks, mountains, or mountainous region?
Most of my time it'd be in Switzerland.
Switzerland.
We're fortunate enough to have a base out there. So if I'm able to work remotely in the winter, I work from Switzerland.
Oh, wonderful! Great. Good. Good to know about these aspects of your life. And coming to the core thing, how has been your procurement and project management journey so far? Any particular aspect you want to share with our audience?
Well, hopefully it's a journey that's not yet finished, even though I'm a lot closer to 60 than 50. And my journey in procurement and project management has overlapped a lot. So a lot of my procurement experience was in a project environment, and the type of projects that I focus on, capital projects, industrial infrastructure projects, they are all about procurement.
Yeah.
The owner of the project doesn't employ the people who deliver it. They buy third parties. So there's a strong overlap between those two. A particular aspect that I go back to is now over 20 years ago, was significant in my career, both from a project point of view, but also from a procurement point of view. And at the time, I was actually working as a supplier. So I worked for an engineering consultancy in the UK. And we'd been selected to do some early stage design and project planning on an important project on a chemical factory. Now, in working to develop an execution strategy, working with what was my client, the project owner, our other internal experts, we decided to try an innovative and collaborative approach to procuring the project, selecting the main contractors. And it at the time, this was in the mid 1990s, we'd heard about some ideas that the UK oil and gas industry had been trying and was claiming were extremely successful. And that was a procurement approach known as Project Alliance. Now, if any of the listeners know about construction style projects, the Project Alliance method is, in my view, identical to what's now being called IPD, Integrated Project Delivery. But this was the same thing. At the time in the UK, it was called Project Alliancing. And it had a number of features that are still quite rare. And I suppose one of my disappointments in both project management and procurement is that this contracting approach is still not the main way today. And I'm baffled. As a client, I wouldn't procure a project in any other way. And as a member of the supply chain, I would not really like to work on projects the other way. And in my consulting career, I've turned down a number of work opportunities before I moved to the university because people wanted my advice on how to do something that I thought was the wrong thing to do.
Right.
You know, how do I set up the right contract using FIDIC? How do I, make sure that my liabilities are limited? I can advise people, but in my heart, I would say my real advice is don't do it that way. it's like an athletics coach.
Yeah.
You know, if the person coming to them was wearing heavy clothing and boots, the athletics coach could help them run faster. But reality, they'd say, stop wearing the heavy clothes and don't wear the boots. And that's so. This method, the three-party, truly collaborative contract, early selection of the supply members. The client got a project that cost them much less than it would otherwise. It was delivered quickly. It hit its targets. That particular factory, nobody could ever remember a large project coming in on budget or on time. But at the same time, the client had success, the suppliers had success. They made great profits. Their income was lower, but they made more profit. It was the proverbial win-win. And one of the procurement aspects is selecting the construction partner for that alliance, which in today's money wasn't a massive project, maybe $15-20 million worth of construction work. That took us 4 weeks to select the construction partner. 4 weeks.
Right.
Even by today's standard, that's seen as very quickly. And we went through 3 stages of selection in 4 weeks. And it was a collaborative 3-party contract. So the client and 2 suppliers signed the same contract. And it was great fun and experience. And I'm just surprised why it hasn't become the norm.
Okay. So you talked about talking to the clients and the way it should be done and which is the right way. How many times do you think you were successful in transforming their thinking? Or do people listen, or they do their own way in spite of the expert advice?
Some do. I know when I first used this method, I just decided to use it. So most of my experience of using that approach is as a procurement manager or as a project manager. Clients, I've worked with a couple of clients who've come across the idea and want to use it. I've come across, and I've worked for a couple of clients in the construction field who initially came across an improved methodology they wanted to use, but found it very difficult doing that on a major project. You hear lots of stories of people who want to use lean construction or advanced work packaging or critical chain project management. But the contracts get in the way of the project team being able to use improvement methods. So a couple of clients of mine as a consultant identified that the contracts were the problem of applying a totally different methodology, and the collaborative contract was what they needed. So one of those was building luxury buildings in Moscow, for example. They were a very high-end developer who, and if you're the developer who's looking to make a return on investment, and you've taken on debt, and you need a great quality product, but you want your, in this case, finished buildings on the market as quickly as possible, as reliably as possible, to start generating positive income. It's exactly the same issue that you'd have in oil and gas developing a new field.
Right.
You start spending money first before you generate income. So the more quickly, reliably, and cost effectively you can get to the point at which you're generating income, the better your return on investment. So there are a few Yeah, I now teach mainly at the university, so my private consulting work is only a very small part of my work time. But I do come across a lot of what you've said. I talk to people who get the ideas, but then they feel powerless because it seems there is always somebody else in a more powerful position who they're either fearful of or says no. And it just surprises me because I can't believe that the senior people in organizations really want to make a decision that makes the business worse, increases risk and reduces return on investment. So there's a gap somewhere that still intrigues me.
I think, Ian, I agree with you. Many times we will learn tools and techniques and concepts while we are studying in CIPS, getting qualifications, getting ideas and sharing it with the colleagues or with the management. But really to implement them and bring about change is a different scenario. But I saw
Definitely.
it really happen when the price of oil came down in 2014-15, and then people found felt the pain, and the transformation, massive transformation took place, and it was successful only because the senior management was involved and there was a lot of commitment from their side. Then people listened and we could bring in the transformation. Before that, it was a decade of just giving suggestions, and really nobody is really concerned about making some significant gains about finance and about making savings or contributing to the organization where we can generate value. So in a way, I can associate with what you're saying. And Ian, what is, in your opinion, what is your opinion on procurement professionals being deft in the project management as well? As you said in the beginning that these procurement and projects management are related together. And I remember around 5-6 years back, we did a seminar in Yas Island in Crown Plaza, where you participated, and we had a joint session where we said project management in procurement, if you recollect.
Yeah, I think there's two aspects. One, as I've said, which has been most of my career, is procuring a project or procuring within a project. And if you work in the type of organizations that has significant project investment, capital investment, IT investment, major campaigns, then to support that sort of environment, the procurement professionals need to understand the business processes of projects and how procurement can really help. So I think that's one important aspect, but clearly that doesn't apply to everybody in procurement. The other aspect are the generic project management skills that are useful to a procurement professional. So that's managing the internal projects.
Right.
Developing a category strategy is a project.
Yes.
Now, ongoing management of the category, once you have chosen a particular strategy and working with supply base, is different. But the stage at which you go through the ideation, creativity, the really in-depth market research, the look at options, the understanding of business needs, is a cross-functional project. And there's generic project management skills that I think needs to be part of the procurement professionals toolkit. But that's different from being able to speak the big project language of your own business. I think they're two different aspects that I think are quite important for the procurement professional.
Yes, like a category management, you rightly said, can be treated as a project management. Like there are so many stakeholders involved, you get so many aspects, you are looking towards it, right from the specification, supplier selection, market intelligence, tendering, and till the time it is completed, and then performance management. It could be termed can be taken under a project management concept if the management or procurement professionals are conversant with the project management. That will definitely, I think, bring some value and help the team.
Yeah, and that's just one example, because clearly something like onboarding a new strategic supplier and stopping working with an old one is in itself a business change project.
Right.
As you say, involving wide range of interested parties, stakeholders, and just like all projects, if you don't force the organization to be clear on the particular objectives for this project, it will be very difficult to implement. That needs forcing, because at the start, different stakeholders will have different opinions and views, and you will not easily be able to satisfy all of them unless you're lucky. So step one is agreeing with the influential stakeholders which of their desires and needs are going to be tackled by the project and which are not, so that people are not disappointed and frustrated, requiring late changes. That's key to the foundation of any project. Agreeing across the organization what is going to be done and what is not going to be done on your particular project.
Okay, Ian, moving on, what are your views on the role of digital procurement in these times of COVID-19?
Two aspects to that, Lalit. Digital procurement. I'm a digital skeptic. I'm skeptical that many major projects to digitize practices are going, I don't believe they're going to bring the value that is expected. Now, that's not because there isn't an immense power. That's not because that digital technologies cannot be extremely powerful. But far too often I see them applied as a quick fix, or an assumption that just being digital will make things better, before there's any good quality problem analysis to understand what problem needs fixing. A very simple example is online bidding. Request for proposals. Technology can make that slick and better. When I was giving proposals for consulting and training outside of CIPS in the Middle East, I used to hate sealing up envelopes and putting them in boxes. I would have loved to have a secure online system. It would have saved us sending a driver down to Abu Dhabi. We could just press some buttons. However, I've also been a supplier and used many online tendering systems. And they actually make some things worse. They to me, as a procurement professional, they put the supplier off. They make it difficult for a supplier to bid to you. And I think, well, don't the procurement people designing this realize that the buyer needs good suppliers more than good suppliers need more customers? If you make life difficult for suppliers to work with you, the chances are the best suppliers won't bother, because the best suppliers have already got lots of customers. And the people who will be willing to bid might be the ones who are desperate for business or who don't have repeat customers. If you've got a great sales team and spend lots of marketing, that might be because you've got a new innovative product that people need to find out about, or it might be you've got a very poor quality product that no customer will buy again. So you need to, now, you know, the procurement skill is separating those two things. And for me, many online systems make it hard to do business. And all that will do is increase risk and increase the price you pay and reduce value. So digital is very powerful, but I'm skeptical that lots of projects will make things better. And there's far too many examples. So whether the COVID-19 times will make a difference, what I think COVID-19 has done is it's encouraged people to use some of the basic digital tools instead of physical movement and transport, and things like this, web conferences, 3D worlds, even talking on the phone. If it's encouraged people to do those things, then I think that will be an advantage. But you know, and building automatic, slick connections into your process is not a bad thing. But like all procurement, the challenge in procurement is not finding the set of tools and techniques to use. It's knowing which tool to use when. And if you've got poor value for money and poor supply performance, it's not likely that that's because of a poor ERP system or the wrong technology running your transactions. It will be because of business level decisions you're making. And the tech won't fix that problem. That's more my concern.
Very insightful and meaningful response. When I said digital, I said people will really tend to agree. Yes, digital has done wonders. And of course, it has helped organizations during this time for working from home and delivering. But having said that, you rightly pointed out, I've lived through that. When we impose something on suppliers, they are not ready maybe. And they were, if you were talking about auctions, I knew there were many big suppliers, international MNCs, who will refuse to participate in reverse auctions in some way. So we were losing that advantage because of their policies. They will not participate in reverse auctions. And for others, we have to train them quite a lot. We spend so much time in training the suppliers. So it is a double-edged. So like you rightly pointed out, it has given some benefits to the people for working remotely or from home. But that does not mean that we are extracting exact value from the procurement as we should do, because tools and techniques are not going to help us. But as you said, which tools and techniques to use when. So that is an important message for us. And Ian, going beyond this pandemic, what are the key trends companies will need to consider? How do you think we will need to kickstart procurement and supply chain once things begin to recover?
I'll give some of my hopes, because one of the problems of you know, the pandemic is because it's extremely stressful for many of us, all members of supply chains. Sometimes that's been exploited. Now, businesses need to do something dramatic to manage costs, and you can do that in a number of different ways. And one of them is to force, almost bully your suppliers and exploit the situation, or use one-size-fits-all approaches, like, you know, we have to reduce our purchase price by 25%, take it or leave it. Now, you know, my concern with things like that is, well, why 25%? It might be too little and it might be far too much. And if you can get away with it, the trouble is the other parties will not forget what you've done.
Yeah.
So post COVID-19, companies that took a very aggressive, almost bullying approach will have to look over their shoulder. Now, making difficult decisions in procurement is possible in a more collaborative way. Collaboration doesn't mean just being nice to each other.
Yeah.
And giving the other party what they want. If you've got to solve a difficult problem, then do it in a collaborative way. If we've all got to take some pain, let's do it in a way that we all feel is fair and equitable, and not that one party is bullying the rest. So I really hope that it's collaboration has its appropriate place in the procurement mix. Now, collaboration will require what I call true negotiation. One of the things that struck me when I was in the Middle East is how constrained and limited much of the selection process was. The bureaucratic tender process, in my view, is not appropriate for a large number of purchasers. People talking to people is what it's about. Simply compare how you recruit for important positions with how we select important suppliers, and you tell me how they're using consistent logic. They're not. So true negotiation is almost the opposite of the limited, constrained tendering process. So I hope that becomes a trend. And I hope procurement professionals are able to move from being seen as a back office support service to a true business partner. Facilitating that business process, not owning it, owning it at a senior level, but at an operational level, it's something the business does, not something procurement forces upon you. And I hope that sort of collaborative team working approach works internally as well as externally with suppliers.
So collaborative team working approach internally as well as externally, that will really help in this scenario. I know of many organizations who are like you say, some organizations trying to exploit the situation. Others are trying to be collaborative and they are working with the suppliers. And in some situations, even suppliers are choosing the clients whom they feel are reasonable or who are more attractive. So all sorts of scenarios are there at present in the situation. But of course, for the long term, it is always better to have these collaborative teams internally as well as externally. That is a good key message.
In the appropriate supply markets, collaboration can be the wrong thing to do if it's for the wrong category in the wrong supply market. In the same way that blinkered competition can be the wrong thing to do. As I said, the fun of procurement is that we've got to make a judgment what the best way of dealing with a particular category and particular supplier is. And anyone who tries to treat everything the same, as the saying goes, if you've only got a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Okay, I got your point. I am I'm very mindful of your time, and it is time to wrap up now. And thanks for joining me. So some of the key learning were from this interaction was that procurement is a key business process, and there is an overlap between procurement and project management. And of course, we should be looking at collaborative contracts, and there should be early selection of supply members and the selection of proper construction partners. And there should be improved methodology followed by clients. And we have got tools and techniques. Many tools and techniques are available for procurement, but we should know which particular tools and techniques to use when. And in this situation, instead of exploiting the situation, it will be a good idea to have some collaborative way of working together between the supplier and the client. And of course, from time to time, situation to this situation, we have to find ways in which tools and techniques will work in which particular situation. So before we leave, I just want to know, Ian, if anybody wants to contact you after the podcast, how they can contact you.
Yeah, I'm happy to either renew contact with anyone I know from my time in the Middle East, or if anyone wants to find out anything more on anything I've said, either contact me on this email address or send me a note on LinkedIn.
Okay, and your contact details are displayed on the screen, and we will also put it in the show notes, which will be publishing. And once again, Ian, I thank you very much for your time, and you provided the really meaningful insights into procurement and project management. Thank you very much,
great
Ian.
to chat. Great to chat, Lalit, and sorry I've got to dash off.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, I'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks you all for tuning in. You can find all the podcasts on the CIPS MENA Facebook page, which will be providing you the link in the show notes. So thank you for tuning in once again.